Finally this morning, I want to get our week started by telling you some things that are really important to me. It's Faye, what's on my mind? So I tried watching the movie Blonde on Netflix, and it really pissed me the F off because it was an awesome opportunity to show what a cool person Marilyn Monroe actually was. She was a remarkable woman who was not just an actress, but an activist and a progressive voice in Hollywood. The movie sort of goes over some of this, but it's all through a story that paints Marilyn Monroe as a constant victim, when in reality, she was her own greatest champion. Marilyn Monroe was very much the hero of her story. She married Arthur Miller, you guys know, right? After he had been called to testify during McCarthyism and anti-communist investigations. Miller wrote The Crucible, which basically spit in the face of McCarthy, and not only standing with him, but marrying him was an incredibly brave act on her part for that time. She openly supported Miller while other actors were running scared from McCarthy. Marilyn famously stood up for Ella Fitzgerald. Do you guys know that? When Ella wasn't allowed to play at the Macombo Room and other places in Hollywood because of her race, Fitzgerald once said that she owed Marilyn Monroe a real big debt, that she personally called the owner of the Macombo and told him that she wanted Fitzgerald booked immediately, and that if he would do it, that Marilyn would take a front table at every night she sang. Well, of course, the owner said yes, and Marilyn was there, front table, every night that Ella Fitzgerald sang. The press went crazy, the club was a huge success. And after that, Ella Fitzgerald never had to play a small jazz club again because of Marilyn Monroe. Michelle Morgan, right? She's a Marilyn Monroe biographer, and she wrote that Marilyn didn't care what people thought of her, that she had this ambition and that she wanted to go for it, that she was constantly educating herself, always fighting for the rights of herself and other people. And really, she contributed to the breakdown of the studio system by demanding her rights and demanding to be treated as an individual, as a human being. She was a freaking trailblazer. She took on the studios when they wanted her to do a role she thought was demeaning, and she refused. They suspended her freaking contract and expected her to come back with her tail between her legs. Instead, what did Marilyn Monroe do? When the studio still didn't want to change her contract, she founded her own film production company in 1954. That's a boss bitch right there. Marilyn Monroe was plainly stated a freaking cool person that LGBTQ+ would still love if she were around today. She did have a difficult childhood, filled with abuse and bouncing between orphanages and foster homes. But what is remarkable is the straight up badassness that growing up like this instilled in her. She was actually one of the few actresses that openly talked about film executives trying to sexually exploit actresses, including her. She talked about walking out of interviews after being propositioned and warned others as much as she could about this predatory behavior that a lot of these execs were pulling off. She was out there trying to expose the Weinsteins of her time. Marilyn Monroe was well-read. She was funny. She was strong. She was a good friend, a great stepmom. She spent the night of her death consoling Joe DiMaggio Jr. over the phone about a breakup that he just had. She had been divorced from his dad for a long time, but you don't divorce kids, right? And he still saw her as a mom figure. To take this human, complicated, fascinating figure and make a movie about her life that amounts to watching her cry for 2 freaking hours while being abused in various ways is basically messed up, to me. A crime against facts, against women, against historical accuracy, against decency, and against good filmmaking. How about this? Take the new movie Blonde with the beautiful Ana de Armas, Latina, Cubana, bellísima, as storytelling, entertainment. All right? I know there's a ton of Marilyn Monroe fans that probably feel the same way I do. So go watch it, you know? The author of the book that it was based on by the same name, Blonde, Joyce Carol Oates, I think her name was, says she made up a lot of the things in the book. So there's also that, right? Feels good to get that off my chest. So, did you enjoy the show? I know you did, so make sure to click subscribe so you won't miss any of the events, news, or interviews right here on the FayWhat's show. Ring the bell at the bottom of the screen, right there, so you'll be alerted every time we're live. You can also click on the Happening Out Television Network logo so you can see all of the shows on the most diverse LGBTQ+ media network. Find out just what we're doing to bring the L and the G together right here on the FayWhat's show. Get the week started with me.